My wife is hot. Olivia is really hot. No, you don't understand. Here is Chloe, my ex. She can rightfully be called a hot woman. She's wild about sex. She screams, scratches, and curses. Sex with her is incomparable, amazing, amazing. Well, it was. Olivia, on the other hand, behaves much calmer. But when it comes to bed, she really gets hot. She's all on fire. Her cheeks are flushed, her skin turns red, and she rushes about as if in delirium. The first time this happened, I was scared. He started asking if she was feeling well and whether she should call a doctor. In short, I behaved like a fool. Instead of satisfying the passion of the heated girl, I was worried about her health. She was scared herself. This was also the first time this happened to her, and we actually went to the doctor. I was afraid of harming her and was worried about her health, but they explained to us that this is normal. Well, of course, not very normal, but within normal limits. That's just the way her body is. That's just the way her body is. Now, when she gets hot, I know she's ready. Throughout the entire process, I try to make Olivia feel comfortable. I don't crush her with my 150 pounds, but lean on my elbows and knees, kissing her lightly. But at the very end, in order for it to reach the top and explode on it, you need to lie down. Then, oh, oh, oh. Then she rushes about like a bird in a snare, moos, and sometimes bites. If you think Olivia is the perfect woman, don't be fooled. If she gets something into her head, even the most obvious stupidity, then even a bulldozer will not be able to move Levy from her position. In such cases, I refuse to argue and give in to her. The lack of resistance has a somewhat sobering effect on my Pishechka, and she, more often than not, admits her mistake. She also smells like pear. I've never been interested in the name of her perfume, but Livy very accurately chose her scent, dim, not persistent, non-aggressive, but exactly what it should be. Peculiar only to her, soft and thin. Out of millions of women, I can unmistakably recognize her by her smell. Why do I remember such moments, essentially little things? Probably because I love Olive. I'm crazy about this woman, and if we ever have to part, then I simply will not live without her. And, yes, she is my wife, and we have a daughter, Eileen. She is 4 months old and has already started to sit up on her own. Eileen is the most important part of our lives. Then comes our intimacy with each other, and after, everything else, in order of importance. When I kicked my wife out of the house, Olive started to leave too. I went into her room, and she was packing the system unit of her PC into a large bag. "Olivia," I asked her, "what are you doing?" "I'm packing my things," she sighed. "Why are you packing things? Am I chasing you?" "Well, after Chloe won't live here anymore." "Olive, you're not bothering me at all. I hope I'm not causing you any trouble either. Think carefully. Where will you go? Back to Mom. In Due-Vest, in this outback. There's probably no internet there either. How will you work there?" I don't know." And just tears. She was 21 years old then. But, in essence, he is still just a child. I hugged her. "Girl, you have nothing to do with what your aunt did. Forgive me for accusing you, for shouting. It just hurt me. It hurt a lot. But in fact, you are not to blame for anything. Stay, I beg you. There is enough grief in this house for one more person to suffer." "Well, are you staying?" She nodded in agreement without raising her head. "Very well. Sort out your luggage, pack up your computer, and while I go make us some scrambled eggs and bacon." Scrambled eggs and bacon were probably the only food I knew how to make. "Don't," Olivia said quietly. "You keep drying out the bacon. I'll cook something myself." And she went to the kitchen. That evening we ate meat in French style. Very tasty, by the way. When I kicked Chloe out of the house, "No, but what did you want?" I caught her in her own bedroom with her colleague Macon Deacons. They worked at the Independent Regional Hospital. Chloe is a hospital administrator, and Macon is an aspiring practicing surgeon. The guy is 4 years younger than her and me. My wife started having a midlife crisis a bit early. I hit her lover twice in the face. He fell and passed out. Severe concussion. Chloe screamed like a siren. She didn't say anything. She just roared so loudly that I wanted to turn down the volume. The police and doctors arrived. Macon was taken to his own hospital, and I was taken to the police station. The next day, the court set my bail in the amount of $5,000, and I left the same day. Mom contributed money. I was given an order not to leave the city until the investigation was completed. You would think, where the hell am I going to leave him? I have 2 high-rise buildings being built in the center, commissioned by the municipality. My mother, oh, my mom is something. She was part of the leadership team of the third wave feminist movement from its very beginning. That is, since the 90s. The third wave of the women's protest movement had slogans and demands that were completely abstruse. Nobody understood them. I think that the feminists themselves did not understand the essence of the demands they made on society, but in the process of fighting for equality, these women achieved such preferences, benefits, and privileges for women that they themselves went nuts. But this is not the main thing. The main thing is that Mrs. Lorraine Galbraith had acquaintances throughout the Confederation. As soon as some kind of conflict arose, the whole flock attacked the opponents. And their antagonists themselves, when they found out who they had contacted, quickly deflated, curled up, and disappeared over the horizon. Yes, my mother's name is Lorraine Galbraith. My father's name is Richard, but I have never met him. My mother raised me alone, with a tough hand, but a soft heart. Mom also lived in Greenwood, on Cokesbury Route. You know, those conservative sandstone houses behind metal fences. I lived in the southern part of the city, 7 kilometers from Cokesbury, on Abbott Avenue. This is the dislocation. I was driven to the house in a police Chevrolet. Mom's Ford was already in the driveway. She and Olivia didn't hear me come through the door. Lorraine was telling something, and the 2 of them were laughing like crazy. Son, let me hug you. How do you feel? Mom and Olivia are somewhat similar. Well, first of all, they're both short 5'4". Secondly, they are both, as they say, lush. You know, there are fat women whose belly and bust sag, and their butt shakes like jelly when walking. And there are donuts. These are my Olivia. Plump, but extremely energetic, just reactive. Nothing sags on her. She is as elastic as a ball. And when walking, if you look from behind, and if she also leans over, the roof just blows off. We had breakfast, and my mother dragged me to the kindergarten to talk. "Edward," she said sternly, "you lost Chloe." No, I don't blame you, of course. Your wife is a simple fool. I invited Eleanor Dalman. She is a lawyer and an old friend of mine. If Chloe's lover raises the question of your punishment, then Eleanor will tear everyone into shreds, like a shepherd dog tearing a pillowcase. Don't worry about it. I nodded. "Thank you, Mom. You are my gold." And she continued. "And you will split your savings with Chloe Blair 50-50, and let her go her way. The house, you understand? No one will share. It is only yours. And now," Mom paused dramatically, "take a close look at Olivia Urton. I never liked Chloe, and I was not mistaken in her assessment. But Olive is a good girl. I've been looking at it for a long time, and I think this is what you need." "Mom, well, I'm not even divorced yet. I still love Chloe. Edward, I do not demand immediate action from you regarding this young lady." She said it in such a way that it became clear. After all, she could have demanded it. I said, "Take a closer look at her. Take a close look at her. If you do this, you will understand what a treasure lives next to you." I bent down and looked out from behind the bushes towards the house. Olivia was clearing the dishes from the table and seemed to be humming something. "Mom, she's still so young, and I'm already an old man. You forget, I'm 29. But, if you are an old man, then who am I? Old ruin, so what?" I was confused and didn't know how to respond to this. Mom put her hand on my hand. "Eddie, son, you are an adult, and I don't want to interfere in your life. But I have the right to worry about your future, and give you advice. My advice to you is to quickly stop loving your unfaithful wife and build a new happy life with that little one over there. She pointed a finger behind her back. If you don't do this, then I will consider you a fool and myself a bad mother. We sat in the garden for a while longer. The heat had already begun to rise, and we returned to the house. You know, when I caught Chloe with someone else's guy, and when I beat him up, I yelled at Olive. She came running towards the noise and stood confused in the doorway. And I shouted, "Olive, you knew it! You knew about all this and remained silent! How could you? How?" Olivia turned pale. The poor girl didn't know what to do, and I continued, "I let you into my house. I treated you like a little sister, and you, fool, in short." So the question arises, why did he take up arms against the child? She already found herself in a difficult moral situation. Chloe is her aunt. How could she betray her? How could she ruin her marriage? Later, she told me, "Eddie, I couldn't hurt you. Physically, I couldn't. It was beyond me. Everything is correct. What was there to shout about? The wife should have been better monitored, and the child should not have been accused of complicity. I confess, I'm an idiot." Here's the story. It's still good that I didn't let my tenant go at that moment. Olivia had already completed 4 years at Washington University in St. Louis. She received a master's degree in design and computer graphics. And in the same year, she began collaborating with the publishing house Greenwood Publication Group. Therefore, it is convenient for her to live in Greenwood. And my wife, her aunt, invited her to live with us for now. Still, one room was empty. Moreover, the attic was free. She was paid well and could afford to rent a place. But no one pushed her to change her place of residence. No one demanded money for accommodation. I didn't mind. Let the girl live. For example, I liked the way she cooked. It didn't work out very well for Chloe. And Olive sometimes produced masterpieces. My Livy is an artist. No, really. A real illustrator. At that time, she was working on the design of covers for technical books. And then Olive received an order from the New York publishing house Avon Book to illustrate a book by the writer Roland. I've seen these Oriental-themed illustrations of Japanese samurai gracefully cutting each other and hugging beautiful geishas against a backdrop of cherry blossoms and swirls of sea foam. Beautiful! Now that we have been married for 3 years, Olivia received an order from the U.S. government printing office. I think my wife is a good artist. At least I admire what she does. After my mother's order to pay attention to Olivia, I really took a closer look at her. Well, how could I, ignore my mother's instructions? Olive felt my attention and began to behave. Well, you know, the way a girl who wants to please behaves. She started wearing short dresses. Sometimes she flashed before me in a transparent nightgown. And one day the strap of her top slipped off her shoulder and almost completely exposed her breasts. Ooh, guys, this is at least a size 3. Women. And I realized that Livy is beautiful. Not the brilliant beauty of socialites, not the seductive charm of ladies of high society. No, but her face, her plumpness, her smile harmoniously merged into an ingenuous, effortless charm. And I loved her. The sheets are not yet cold from my first wife, and I have already given my heart to another woman. I guess I'm a dog. One day, it was in November, there was a rainstorm outside the window and I was lying in my bed with a book in my hands. Olivia, wearing a see-through nightie, stood at the open door and hesitated. Classic situation. Night, thunderstorm, woman is scared. Olivia, forgive me for my tactlessness, but tell me, do you want to sleep in my arms? Yes, just like that. He asked frankly and directly. Olive blushed, then turned pale, then tried to say something. I patted the bed next to me. Or here, my joy. And she carefully lay down, put her head on my shoulder and pressed her whole body. Olivia loves to kiss. She loves this process. She just melts from hugs and kisses. With ecstasy, she falls to my lips, which seek her lips, and is thrilled, thrilled, thrilled. I once, completely by accident, timed it. We kissed incessantly for 22 minutes. And then, during a thunderstorm, she pulled away from my lips and whispered hotly, "Eddie, I love you. I want you. I've loved you for a long time. All. My heart belonged to little Olivia." At that moment, I did not know that some problems awaited me. We kissed like teenagers, but when I took more decisive action, Olivia panicked. "No, Eddie, no. Don't. Please." At first, I was angry. Did the girl decide to give me a boost? But after a second, I realized what was going on. "Liv, baby, haven't you had a man yet?" She sighed convulsively and shook her head slightly. "Livy, my sunshine, are you a girl?" "Yes. Sorry. I'm afraid." I collapsed back onto my pillow and tried to calm down. Olivia lay as quiet as a mouse. "Livy," I began, "I don't want to hurt you. And I will never hurt you. Can I just kiss you?" Liv sat up and readily took off her shirt, and I kissed her all over, taking her to the top twice. Then he hugged her, relaxed and sweaty, and fell asleep. We destroyed her virginity surgically, under local anesthesia. Then we waited 2 weeks for everything to heal. I took her to a restaurant, a movie, and a bowling alley. We walked holding hands. We went boating with her on the Saluda River to Lake Murray and back. We fished in Greenwood Lake and camped overnight. We were involved in romance. Yes. And then, already at the beginning of December, I stirred it up so that it burst into flames. That night we were both scared and nothing happened. Well, as I already said, let's go to the doctors. And then our sexual madness began. Chloe and I were divorced in 2002. The day before the divorce, I turned exactly 30. That evening, I took Olivia to Reverie, one of the best restaurants in Greenwood. And there, kneeling in front of my Livichka, I opened the box with the ring and asked her to become my wife. We kissed like school children to thunderous applause. This is such a soapy story. About a week later, we were sitting on my mother's terrace, drinking vintage wine and chatting lazily. Still, how good it is that I accidentally returned home and caught Chloe in the act of debauchery. I can't imagine how I would live without my Levy. I reached out and stroked my wife's knee. "You can't rely on chance in life," answered my mother. "You need to plan and build your life yourself. Otherwise, nothing will work." "Mom," I objected, "but there is also a place for happy occasions in life." Mom just chuckled in response. I explained, "No, really, here, look." Then, with the chairman of the construction committee, Magnus Sullivan, I went in a Carolina Rover to inspect the vacant lot for the construction of a boarding house. Then he had to take me to the city hall, look at the soil replication and the soil water map. But on the way, Magnus's wife called and said that she felt bad and needed a doctor. And he rescheduled our meeting for Thursday. I arrived home, and there... Well, isn't this a happy accident? Lorraine's mother took a sip of Italian Rosso from her glass and thought for a moment. Magnus Sullivan. His wife, Cornelia Sullivan, is my old friend and party ally. I called her. Well, she couldn't refuse me such a small request. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.